Hi, my name is Fehazia, and I will be giving you a crash course on political geography. Now let's get this started. What is political geography? Government politics? Ew. It is a spatial study of the organization and distribution of political phenomena. There are two different types of boundaries. One of them are physical boundaries. Physical boundaries are easy to see on maps and in real life. An example of this is the Rio Grande that separates the U.S. and Mexico. There are also many natural boundaries that are physical. Examples of natural boundaries are mountain boundaries, which are sparsely populated due to extreme conditions. It's just really cold. There are also desert boundaries, which are typically found in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. There are also water boundaries that include rivers, seas, and oceans. These boundaries are the most commonly used boundaries. Countries have to follow the law of the sea. The law of the sea standardized territorial limits for most countries at 12 nautical miles, and gave rise to fish and other marine life within 200 miles. Let's move on to cultural boundaries. Cultural boundaries, aka consequent boundaries, between some states are set by ethnic differences, especially those based on language and/or religion, such as Christianity versus Islam. One example of a religion-based cultural boundary is the boundary between India and Pakistan. These two countries have feuded over having different religions, Pakistan fighting for Islam and India fighting for Hinduism. Even though Pakistan is separated from India, they still had problems with people who were on the wrong side. Another ethnic conflict area is Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia fell apart into several smaller ethnically based states such as Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. This process is called balkanization. Let's talk about territorial morphology. What a big fat word. What does it mean? Territorial morphology is a term that describes the shapes, sizes, and relative locations of states. There are 5 different types of shapes of states. There's compact, protruded, elongated, fragmented, and perforated. Let's talk about compact states. A compact state is when the distance from the center to any boundary is about the same, giving it a shape similar to a circle. Some examples are Uruguay, Belgium, and Poland. The advantages are that if the capital is in the center, then the shape eases its ability to rule the regions around the center. A disadvantage of a compact state would be they have less resources due to their small size. Let's move on to protruded states. A protruded state is an otherwise compact state with a large projecting extension. An example of a protruded state is Thailand. The northern part of Thailand is more compact, and when we travel down to the south, there is a big, long piece of land jutting out of the compact north. In protruded states, there are many advantages. One of the advantages is that the projecting territory may help the state get access to sea. Also, they may prevent rival access. The disadvantages of protruded states are that the corruptions are fought over a lot. This is because they are created during colonial times, making it hard to justify who the corruption belongs to. An example today is that in Africa, Namibia is experiencing strife in the Caprivi Strip. Let's move on to elongated states. Elongated states are states that have a long and narrow shape. Some examples of elongated states are Chile and Gambia. A disadvantage that elongated states have is communication and transportation problems because of cities being far away from each other. Also, cities can feel isolated if they are located on the ends of countries, which can lead to separatist movements. There are some advantages though. An advantage is that raw materials can be transported to industrial centers fairly easily because of the typical narrowness of elongated states. Let's move on to fragmented states. These have several discontinuous pieces of territory. Basically, any state that has islands is a fragmented state. An example of a fragmented state is Indonesia. Indonesia is a type of fragmented state that has many islands. Indonesia's government has difficulty controlling all of the islands at once. Another type of fragmented state is when an area of a country is separated from the country, such as the West Bengal region being separated from India by the state of Bangladesh. The West Bengal region is an exclave, which is an area separated from a state by another state. Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of fragmented states are that they are hard to invade. Because of all the islands, it is hard for countries to invade. Disadvantage is that communications between the regions can be difficult. Perforated states are states that completely surround another state. There are only two perforated states in the world, Italy and South Africa. South Africa completely surrounds Lesotho, which is an enclave. An enclave is a state that is landlocked by another state. Italy completely surrounds Vatican City and San Marino, which could also be considered enclaves. The advantage for perforated states is that the ethnic group in the enclave it surrounds has its own state, so they can't wreak havoc in the surrounding state. Disadvantage is that the transportation and communication routes for the perforated state might go through the enclave, thus making it difficult to control those routes. Let's move on to centripetal and centrifugal forces. Centripetal forces bind together the people of a state, giving it strength. Nationalism is the most powerful centripetal force. A country promotes nationalism by using symbols like flags, religion, and the armed forces. All of these things bring a country together. Centripetal forces are all beneficial, but centrifugal forces destabilize the government and encourage the country to fall apart. If the government is too strong, that may challenge the loyalties of the citizens. An effect of centrifugal forces that some countries have faced is devolution, which is a decentralization of decision-making to regional governments. This occurred in Britain when it devolved power to the Scottish and Welsh parliaments in order to keep peace with Scotland and Wales. Because of this, Britain's government has been a little rocky. Centrifugal forces tear apart a country. Now, there are many supranational organizations, but before World War II, there were many failed attempts to create a working one that kept peace. Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt created the UN. It started out with 49 states, then went to 193 states in 2012. Now, almost all of the countries in the world are part of the UN. The UN's main goal is to keep peace. A very important part of the UN is that its members can locate a hot spot where there is conflict and vote to establish peacekeeping forces there, and request states to contribute military forces. The Security Council is responsible for making this decision. It consists of the US, Britain, France, China, and Russia. Peacekeeping forces have been sent to Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Sub-Saharan Africa to prevent conflict. Basically, the UN is a forum where most of the states of the world meet and vote on issues without warring. Thank you for watching, and I hope that helped you out.